So once I have my base geometry kind of tweaked the way that I want, um, I can begin to kind of build up things around the model a little bit more if I have the expression that I want. Now remember, if you want to make changes, say to the face, if you want to continue to tweak it, you can use your different tools. I've been using the grab tool, and I'm using my simple, scale this down a little bit, so I don't want too much, but I'm using the grab tool, and I can pull and push this geometry kind of wherever I want. So if I'm happy with this model, I want to make him more angry or whatever. And the lower, if I was happy with this, if I want to pull out a little bit more on his face, like I want to pull out his kind of his nose region a little bit, right through here, pull this out, maybe pull out his top lip a little bit, give him a little bit more roundness, maybe pull his bottom lip out a little bit. It's totally up to you what you do, and how much detail you want to put on the model. Now, what I forgot to do is I forgot to actually add the lobes on the model. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to, I might use this actual, and I'm going to go in, I'm going to say lobes. I'll double click on my layer here and say lobes. And this is where I'm going to actually draw and use my sculpting tool to pull out some very basic features that make the pumpkin have its lobed shape. So first I'm going to have to test it out. Oh, that's a strength of 15. I don't want that. Might have a strength of 1 or something. I'm going to move to the side of the pumpkin. And what's nice is that everything I'm doing is going on this layer. So if I draw a lump alongside of it, first of all, it's really narrow, so I want to soften that a little bit, and I want to make it a little bit bigger and not quite so intense. So the controls for this, and this is probably going to be like 0.5 or something. I'm going to use bring this down. I want it to be kind of big, but I don't want it to be that big. And I'm just drag on there. So that's getting me a nice lobe there. Maybe a little bit less strength, so I'm holding down my mouse. Strength is going up. I want my strength to go down. So I'm dragging to the left here. Alright, so if I go up to the top and I start to drag down, okay, there, that's giving me some lobes. So I want to add some lobes to my model, starting kind of at the top. Maybe pull in some across his cheek. Go around. What's nice is I have my mirroring on, so that what I do on one side, I'm getting on the other. Oh, the lag time is a little bit obnoxious. And so I'm going to just kind of have to do the best I can with what I have here. Go around to the back. Really bad. Dragging a low back there. And they don't have to be perfect, because pumpkins certainly aren't perfect. And so if I wanted to smooth that, I could, but I want to give it that kind of sense of a pumpkin here. Now it's starting to look like a pumpkin. Might want to pull some more of that out around his brow region. Give him a little bit more. I like his cheeks, the way his cheeks are kind of bulked up there. I like that a lot. Actually, he's looking really good. Now, one thing I want to do is I want to flatten the base. So I'm going to make a layer. I'm just making layers so you can kind of, whatever you do to your model, you can undo if you put it on a layer, and I can kind of separate out my operations. So I'm going to go to flatten, and I'm going to go down to the base here, and I'm going to flatten the base because I want him to be able to sit flat when I put him on the surface that I put him on. So I'm simply going to just kind of flatten out this area so when he prints, he'll sit flat. So notice, if you can see this, this is a very small model, but it's flat. You can see it's flattened, just like this is flat. I don't want to forget about those things, so when you print it, if it rolls over, I mean, it's useless. And so you got to think about stuff like that ahead of time. You don't want to have to go back. You know, what I want to avoid doing, and it's kind of inevitable, is just like you got to make a lot of mistakes and have to print again and model again and print again and model again. But once you kind of learn from your mistakes and other people's mistakes, then hopefully your workflow will enable you to work faster with fewer mistakes. And so I'm trying to pass on a little bit of knowledge that I know. There's so much information out there. But anyway, for your first kind of model here, this gives you kind of an idea of what you can get. Now when I print this, I'm going to print it with the back and the face up. So if I printed it like this, it doesn't print too well because it wants to build all these supports. But I found that if I print it with the face up, the details of the face and the curvature is maintained, and it looks really good when it's finished. And all of the support structures that's inside of it, if you're using a MakerBot, is kind of hidden behind the face, and it lines up with actually the holes in the eyes and the nose and the mouth. It's kind of hidden, and so that's kind of nice. So I'm going to save my file, save it as a, I'm just going to say this is 1.3. And it's going to be my complete. I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to export it. So I need to select my model and then export this out as an OBJ model as well. Now I can take an OBJ model into Mudbox or into MakerBot, or I can convert it into an STL file, but I'm going to use an OBJ right now. And so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold down my space bar and go down to my selection tool, and I'm going to choose select object, and I'm going to click on my object. It's going to turn yellow, and I'm going to go to file, and I'm going to say export selection, and I can choose OBJ from my menu down here, and I'm going to put it into my my documents folder and my Mudbox projects, because that's where everything's being held. Jack-o'-lantern and my scenes, and this is an OBJ, and this is going to be my Jack complete sculpted. I'm going to put the OBJ on there just in case. Alright, I'm going to say save. Now it's going to be printing that. It should be making that. If I hit Control Shift and right click on my model again, it'll deselect it. And so there, I'm finished with that. I'm going to save my scene, and I'm done with the modeling process. And I'm going to just go to my file folder and make sure it's there before I close everything out. I always like to make sure things are where they're supposed to be and I can find them. So if I go to a printer or whatever, here's all my Jack-o'-lantern files. And here are my OBJ files, and there is my sculpted OBJ complete. And there's it looks like it gave me a little thumbnail of it. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, there he is. It's kind of an angry, grouchy looking thing, but that's good. So I want him to be kind of that way. Whoops. There he is. Alright. Good. So that's the end of my model, and that's the one that I'm going to end up taking into Makerware from MakerBot. And so if I was to take my model into Makerware, I'm using the Maker desktop software that's free off of MakerBot's website. I'm going to add a file, and I'm going to go into my documents and into my folder. Oops, not my box folder, my Maya folder. And if I find my Jack-o'-lantern sculpted, I should be able to open it up and move to platform. Now it says it's pretty small. Obviously it's very small, so I'm going to go to scale and I need to double click it. It says it's 4 millimeters wide. Well, I want it to be 40 millimeters because that's 4 centimeters. So this is off by quite a bit, and so I'm going to increase it a whole lot here. If I said 200%, it makes it 8 millimeters. So I actually need to increase it. I'm going to undo that. Say 1,000. And there, that's 41. And what I've done is my model was already, let's say, I'm going to undo that. I don't know what it just did. I don't trust it, so I'm going to turn that off. Okay. So if I go into the space here, I have it laying on its back. Here's my model in the Maker space, Makerware, and this is how I would print it actually. And I'm going to double click on this and say move on platform, make sure it's there. I'm going to center it. Looks like it's done so. And if I wanted to print this, I could kind of see how long this print might take. I want RAS supports on. But this will give me an idea. I don't have this hooked up to a printer at the moment, but it will at least give me the ability to set my file up and keep everything organized. But it'll give me an idea. This should print in about probably a little under 2 hours, I think. Yeah, an hour and a half. This is how much material it's going to use. I actually want it to have supports, so I'll actually put this in the software, and I want to make sure that the supports are going. And it gives me a preview of the model, and I can look and see right here how the model is going to print. And I would do a high quality model, but you can see that I want to have 100% infill on my model when I do it, so that it's nice and strong, and it's not very big, so that's why I'm doing it. If it was giant, I wouldn't do 100% infill, but sometimes when the walls are pretty thin, it can make a mistake. But you can see how it's going to print this model, and it looks really pretty good. I don't want this, but I will want to eventually change the settings and use supports, and I want a high speed, or I want a high quality, and I'm using the PLA material, and I'll look at my advanced options, and I'm going to use 100% infill here, and I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to do it again, export, supports on, RAFs on. I want all that. Now let's see what it says. It'll use more material and it'll take longer, but the quality will be much better in the end. Now it's up to you what you do. If you don't mind the grooves, if you want to do something to finish that, that's up to you. I'm going to print mine pretty big, and so I want it to be pretty big when it's finished, but not as big as this. Not this big. Although I could, but it would take probably 5 hours. So let's see what this says now. And I'm going to actually print this one, not here on video, but I'm going to print it and make sure it looks good. But it looks like it should print just fine. Now it's going to look a little messy with the supports, but it'll actually come off fairly well. Even at the end, this had a lot of supports on it, but it came off pretty nicely, and I can smooth that off. And I was really quite happy with it, even at this small, ridiculously small size. the details are all there, and I really was very happy